The afternoon sun glows over Maple Creek Estates. Freshly mowed lawns, trimmed hedges, and identical beige houses lined up like soldiers. Ethan Miles pulls his old pickup into the driveway of his new home. Finally, a place of his own. A place to unwind after long days of designing steel frameworks and solving other people's structural problems. But today he's ready to build something simple. Just a little wooden fence for privacy. Nothing fancy, just enough to mark his space. He's out there in jeans and a red plaid shirt, measuring tape in one hand, pencil behind his ear, humming as he measures along the edge of his backyard. Birds chirp. A sprinkler clicks rhythmically. Everything feels peaceful. Then, click, click, click. The sharp, rapid sound of heels on the driveway. Ethan glances up. Here she comes. Mrs. Judith Crane, late 40s, platinum blonde hair in a perfect twist, wearing that blindingly bright pink pantsuit that somehow looks both expensive and threatening. Clipboard tucked under her arm like a badge of authority, lips pressed tight in a judgmental smile. "Mr. Miles," she says in that overly polite tone that always hides trouble. I couldn't help but notice. Measurements. "Are we planning a structure?" Ethan chuckles lightly, thinking it's casual conversation. "Just a small fence. You know, a bit of privacy, maybe keep the dog from wandering." Mrs. Crane's eyes narrow like she's spotted a criminal blueprint. "Oh, I'm afraid not." Fences disrupt community harmony. HOA regulations prohibit any vertical barriers. You'll find it in Section 3B, Paragraph 2. Ethan blinks, half amused, half confused. Wait, fences ruin harmony? What about the 5-foot hedges next door? She smiles, the kind of smile that says she's already won. Natural flora is encouraged. Artificial boundaries are not. Then she taps her clipboard and adds, "I'll be watching, Mr. Miles." And just like that, she turns and struts away, heels echoing like a gavel hitting wood. That night, Ethan sits on his porch, sipping coffee, scrolling through HOA bylaws on his phone. The rules are endless. Fence height, mailbox color, grass length, even how many garden gnomes you can display. He laughs to himself, shaking his head. These people really hate freedom. The next morning, as sunlight spills across his driveway, he opens the door to find a white envelope taped to it. HOA violation notice. The reason? Unauthorized boundary planning. Ethan stares at it, speechless for a second, then bursts out laughing. Unauthorized planning? I didn't even build anything! He crumples the letter in his fist, staring across the street at the same houses, same smiles, same fake peace. His neighbor waves awkwardly from behind a curtain. It hits him. This isn't a neighborhood, it's a controlled experiment. Ethan exhales, a slow smirk curling at the edge of his mouth. Fine, no fence, huh? He glances at his measuring tape still lying in the grass, then looks back at the perfectly flat ground stretching around his home. Guess I'll need a horizontal boundary instead. He steps off the porch and looks at the yard, the soil, the slope, the drainage lines he mapped earlier. His engineer's brain starts whirring. Something clicks. Something big. A boundary that doesn't rise above the ground, but sinks below it. And in that moment, under the quiet suburban sky, the first spark of an outrageous idea is born. Ethan's garage becomes a laboratory of madness. The walls are plastered with blueprints, sketches, and sticky notes, half genius, half chaos. A workbench overflows with measuring tapes, miniature excavator models, construction helmets, and a whiteboard scribbled with formulas only an engineer could love. Frustration has turned into fascination. What started as a petty HOA feud has evolved into a full-blown architectural rebellion. Ethan sits under a hanging bulb, tapping a pencil against a notebook, muttering to himself. If vertical is banned, go horizontal. He flips through his old engineering textbooks, cross-referencing drainage diagrams, load-bearing capacities, and soil retention designs. Then he stumbles upon an illustration in a medieval architecture book, a castle moat. A defensive trench filled with water, designed to protect what's inside. His eyes widen. Now that's a boundary. Hours turn into days. He studies everything. Castle blueprints, modern hydro systems, koi pond setups, even how golf course water traps self-drain. He mixes history with modern engineering, sketching something wild, a decorative moat that encircles his house, complete with natural filtration, flower borders, and, for flair, a small wooden drawbridge leading to his front door. It's absurd. It's overkill. It's perfect. A montage unfolds. Ethan pacing around the yard with surveying equipment, marking the perimeter with neon spray paint. He checks the gradient, the soil density, even wind direction. Neighbors peek from their windows, whispering, trying to guess what on earth he's planning. One even asks, "Building a pool, Ethan?" He grins, something like that. Late one night, he's deep into CAD software, digitally modeling the moat. The glow of his laptop reflects in his eyes as he adjusts angles and depths. On the other monitor, castle blueprints overlap with suburban landscaping images, a Frankenstein fusion of elegance and defiance. Then, ding! A new email notification. He opens it. From Mrs. Judith Crane. Subject, excessive soil movement. Message. Mr. Miles, reports indicate you have been surveying your property and marking areas for potential excavation. This behavior is concerning and could violate HOA Regulation 4C, unauthorized topographical alterations. Ethan leans back in his chair and bursts out laughing. Topographical alterations? You've got to be kidding me. He walks to the window, staring out at the yard, at the spray-painted lines glowing faintly under the porch light. He whispers, with a grin that could start a war, "It's not a fence, Judith. It's landscaping," and with that, he pins the first blueprint to the corkboard, titled in bold letters, Project Horizon, Operation Moat. The plan has begun. The nights grow longer, quieter, except for the distant hum of machinery coming from Ethan's backyard. Under a soft orange glow from his porch light, Ethan slips on his gloves, safety goggles, and a headlamp. A rented mini excavator rumbles to life, its headlights cutting through the darkness like a secret mission in the suburbs. He moves with surgical precision, digging, scooping, leveling, the rhythm oddly hypnotic. Every so often he pauses, listening for any signs of Mrs. Crane's late-night patrols. Crickets chirp, an owl hoots, and the mechanical whir of his excavator blends into the quiet rebellion of the night. He's an engineer by day, but by night he's become an outlaw landscaper. Each shovel of dirt feels like payback for every HOA violation notice ever taped to his door. As the trench begins to form a circular path around the house, Ethan hides the growing piles of dirt behind temporary garden tarps and home improvement signs. He even places a few potted plants strategically to disguise the edges. To anyone passing by, it looks like simple yard work, but inside that yard work lies a plan worthy of a Bond villain. Around midnight, a light flickers in a neighbor's window. Curtains twitch. A shadowed face appears, watching. One whispers to another, Is he building a bunker?" Another replies, "I heard he's making an underground pool." Soon the whispers ripple across the street. The legend of Ethan the Midnight Digger is born. By dawn, Ethan's covered in mud, sweat glistening on his face. He kills the excavator's engine and steps back, admiring his work. The trench curves elegantly around his house, not finished yet, but undeniably impressive. The next morning, the sound of heels clicking on concrete breaks the calm. Mrs. Judith Crane arrives in full form, bright pink pantsuit, clipboard in hand, lips pursed tighter than ever. She stops dead at the sight of the backyard. Piles of earth, survey markers, heavy machinery tracks. "Mr. Miles!" She gasps, scribbling furiously on her clipboard. "Are you constructing an illegal structure? This looks like a violation of—" Ethan wipes his hands on his jeans, flashes a disarming smile, and calmly interrupts. "Just improving my drainage, Mrs. Crane. The rainwater's been pooling a bit too much lately." She narrows her eyes, suspicious. "Drainage doesn't require—" "Excavators," he shrugs. "Depends on how thorough you want it." Mrs. Crane's nostrils flare. She snaps a dozen photos with her phone, muttering HOA codes under her breath like a curse. Then, with one final glare, she storms off toward her car, her heels sinking slightly in the soft, freshly dug soil. Ethan watches her go, fighting the urge to laugh. He glances at his moat in progress, then at the sunrise lighting the edge of the trench. He whispers to himself, grinning, "Just improving drainage, 1 foot deeper every night." Behind him, the excavator sits quietly like a loyal partner in crime. And beneath the surface, the moat's foundation grows stronger. And the tension with the HOA builds thicker. It's a bright Saturday morning, the kind that makes the whole neighborhood look like it came straight out of a brochure. Except today, there's one house that doesn't look like the rest. Ethan stands at the edge of his yard, admiring his masterpiece, a shimmering circular moat that now surrounds his entire property. The water sparkles under the sun, perfectly clear, with floating lily pads, koi fish darting below, and soft ripples reflecting the blue sky. Smooth stone edging lines the trench, each rock meticulously placed. And tiny solar lights glimmer along the border like a crown. A small wooden drawbridge now stretches across the moat, connecting the sidewalk to his front porch. It even creaks a little when stepped on, intentionally, for dramatic effect. Ethan takes a deep breath and smiles, whispering, "Privacy, perfection, and pure poetry." Within minutes, the sound of high heels clapping against the pavement cuts through the calm like a warning siren. Mrs. Judith Crane has arrived, clipboard already in attack mode, bright pink pantsuit glowing like a battle flag. She freezes mid-step, mouth open, eyes darting from the moat to the bridge, to the koi fish, and back to Ethan, who's leaning casually on the railing, coffee in hand, wearing a smug, peaceful grin. "Mr. Miles," she starts, voice trembling, "what in the name of the HOA is this?" He takes a slow sip. "It's called landscaping." "Landscaping?" She screeches. "This is a water hazard, a liability. You've built a—" Ethan calmly interrupts, holding up a laminated page from the HOA handbook. "Actually," he says, "Section 12B states, no fences, hedges, or vertical barriers over 2 feet. He taps the page with one finger, a faint smirk forming. "This one's horizontal." The crowd of neighbors that has gathered bursts into laughter. Phones are out. Cameras are rolling. Someone yells, "He built a castle!" Another shouts, "Where's the crocodile, Ethan?" Mrs. Crane's face goes from pink to crimson as she flips through her manual, pages fluttering in panic. This is unauthorized aquatic construction." Ethan tilts his head. "Show me where it says no moats." "I'll wait." The laughter grows louder. A kid runs up and tosses a pebble into the moat. Plop. The koi scatter, sunlight catching their orange scales like jewels. Mrs. Crane, flustered and furious, takes a step back and nearly slips on the damp grass, catching herself just in time. Her clipboard flies from her hands, papers fluttering dramatically into the moat. The neighbors cheer again, some clapping, others whistling. Ethan crosses the bridge slowly, savoring every second, and helps her retrieve a soggy paper from the water. He hands it back politely with a smile. "You might want to laminate those, Judith. Things get wet around here." For the first time ever, she's speechless. She stares at him, then at the moat, this absurd, gleaming monument to his defiance, and storms off, her heels splashing through a shallow puddle as laughter trails behind her. Ethan turns back toward the crowd, raises his mug, and says, "Guess I finally built something she can't fence me in for." The neighbors erupt again, phones flashing, kids cheering, as the drone of a distant lawnmower fades behind the sound of water, gently rippling around Ethan's fortress of peace and rebellion. By Monday morning, the HOA office looks like a war room. Mrs. Crane sits at the head of the conference table, clutching her mug labeled "HOA Justice Never Sleeps." Around her, a few board members whisper nervously, scrolling through their phones. Because overnight, the internet exploded. Ethan's little Moat grand opening live stream, where he toasted the crowd with his coffee and said, "Welcome to the world's most peaceful HOA property," hit 10 million views before sunrise. Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube were flooded with clips of Mrs. Crane nearly slipping into the water, her clipboard flying like a frisbee. The captions varied, but the tone was unanimous, pure joy. "Finally, someone engineered peace." The HOA got outsmarted. "With landscaping?" "This man didn't build a moat. He built a movement. By mid-morning, even local news outlets had shown up at Willow Creek. A small crowd gathered around Ethan's property, reporters, neighbors, and curious visitors snapping selfies with the now famous Castle House. Meanwhile, inside the HOA office, the board tried to salvage their reputation. "Mr. Miles has violated safety and zoning ordinances," one member said, voice shaking as laughter echoed from his phone's notifications. Mrs. Crane slammed her palm on the table. "He's mocking us. The entire internet thinks we're a joke." The treasurer cleared his throat. "Technically, Judith, he hasn't broken any written rule. There's nothing in the handbook about, moats." Her jaw tightened. "Then we'll write one," she snapped, but the damage was already done. Within hours, Ethan was trending worldwide as the man who moated his HOA. Memes flooded the internet. Mrs. Crane photoshopped in night armor labeled the Pink Pantsuit Patrol. Ethan's calm smile under the caption, "When you read the fine print." A fake movie poster. Moat, based on a true HOA horror story. Ethan, sitting comfortably on his porch, sipped from his mug while drones buzzed overhead filming his castle. He gave a brief interview to a reporter, saying, "I didn't want to start a fight. I just wanted peace and a little water between me and the drama. Within a day." His mailbox overflowed with fan mail, sponsorship offers, and even a letter from a landscaping company offering him a brand deal. Let's turn HOA nightmares into backyard dreams. The HOA's fury had backfired spectacularly. What started as an act of rebellion had become a worldwide symbol of clever defiance and poetic irony at its finest. Mrs. Crane sat in her car that night, staring at her phone screen, as a TikTok replayed her viral moment in slow motion, the slip, the gasp, the clipboard splash, set perfectly to dramatic music. She closed the app, sighed deeply, and muttered to herself, "Next time, we're banning water." Several quiet weeks pass in Willow Creek. The viral buzz begins to settle, though Ethan's moat still draws curious onlookers every now and then, families slowing down their cars to take pictures, kids pointing and whispering, "That's the moat guy." The HOA, embarrassed but determined to regain control, finally releases an official update to their handbook. The new rule reads, Section 12C, fences, barriers, trenches, or water-based boundaries now require prior HOA approval. A small victory for the HOA, or at least that's how they frame it in their newsletter. But for Ethan, it's pure satisfaction. He framed a printed copy of the amendment and hung it proudly in his garage, right above his first moat blueprint. On a breezy Saturday morning, Ethan lounges on his porch, feet up, fishing pole resting lazily over the moat. A few bright orange koi swirl beneath the surface, rippling the water with every flick of their tails. Solar lights shimmer softly along the stone edge, and the small wooden bridge creaks gently as the wind drifts through. Across the street, Mrs. Crane approaches. But this time she's different. No heels, no shouting. Instead, she's wearing a pair of bright pink rubber boots that somehow still match her signature suit. She walks carefully along the edge of the moat, clipboard tucked under her arm, pretending to inspect the flowers blooming along the water. Ethan lowers his fishing line, hiding a grin. "Morning, Judith," he calls out. She clears her throat, glancing awkwardly at the koi. "Mr. Miles." I must admit the landscaping has matured quite nicely. Ethan chuckles. "Beautiful day for open landscaping, isn't it?" Mrs. Crane exhales through a tight smile. "Indeed, just keep the water level under 2 feet. He tips his hat playfully. "Wouldn't dream of it." The camera slowly pans upward. From above, Ethan's home looks almost majestic. A peaceful island surrounded by crystal blue water, ringed with flowers and softly glowing garden lights. What began as rebellion now radiates calm, creativity, and poetic justice. A warm sunset bathes the neighborhood, and the voiceover returns one last time. When they tell you to stay within boundaries, sometimes you just have to dig your own. As the final words fade, Ethan leans back in his chair, the reflection of the orange sky dancing across the moat. The sound of frogs croaking blends with gentle laughter from passing neighbors. Then, fade out. The screen lingers on one last shot. A wooden sign by the bridge that reads, "Welcome to Castle Miles, HOA approved," eventually.